about, so we're supposed to vote first about who we wanted to fill the position, and then we're supposed to basically argue our case, like why we think that person is the best fit. So
I also like to tell you that I also think Andy would be good.
yeah, I was kind of in between because the criteria, when I was going over the criteria, it said one of the things it said was we're very hands-on and high touch, and we're not the volume leader. Oh wait, not that one. Basically talking about makes a big difference if they have been an entrepreneur. And Andy was the one, I believe, that was the one that worked. He was doing his own business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I feel like, I don't know, he was maybe a better fit, but I felt like he had more of an edge.
Yeah, you mentioned like the main reason they were a little nervous was because his grade point average wasn't great.
Right.
But like his SATs and his GMAT were really high. So that because of his business, he didn't have a ton of time to study for his classes, but he does have a lot of real life experience. He's still good on his SAT and GMAT, so he still has the knowledge you need.
Right.
One of the main things that really caught my eye with Natalia was it clearly stated that she was going to be a hardworking. She had she just was going to. She seemed like she's going to be a hard worker. Let's see if I can find this person would want. Let's see, person would. I want to bring a tough negotiation. She seemed very determined, ambitious, and ready to work hard. And in my opinion, that's half the battle. When somebody's ambitious and willing to work hard, they're usually able to adjust to any adjustment that needs to happen within a company or within life in general.
Yeah. So are there any candidates that you wouldn't hire? Like for sure that you would not hire? Like out of the 4 that were given?
There was.
I don't know if I would. Go ahead, Jason.
No, I just was saying Andy Sanchez seems to be really bright, but I don't think that would have been a good fit. Being an entrepreneur, I think he's just got a little bit more of a wild spirit, and to be tied down and told what to do all day, I don't know. It just seemed like he was the wrong one.
Yeah, I got that as well. He may not have taken orders very well.
Kyle, you got a lot of background noise going on.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know.
I'm just saying there's a lot of background.
Here, I'll mute it until I'm ready to talk about that.
That'll help.
What would have helped to determine better, like the candidates that were available to us? What would have helped decide, like what tools could we have used maybe that weren't there to help us decide which ones would fit best?
I don't know if you could do type of maybe a little test type thing as a work, like put them in a work situation and maybe kind of see what they would do about the situation. I don't know if that would work.
No, I like that. Kind of like, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I think, I didn't really feel like they said too much about the informational interviews, and so we knew a lot about their background as far as school, and like their qualifications were, but we didn't really find out a whole lot about them, their like personalities and like who they were as a person. So I feel like that would have helped my decision or swayed it maybe differently.
I
agree. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I agree. In fact, I wish we could have gotten a little clip. Hiring and interviewing your impressions. Yeah, especially when you have other employees. And so you're right. More information more detail. That would have helped a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
even
agree.
sorry, like how they work as a team too, because they mentioned, would you want this guy on your team, or they're the last person we have, and we're going to put them on your team. How do you feel about that? Just like how they work as a team, which would be helpful to know how they are as a person.
Were you guys did something, Abby?
I just liked what you said about knowing more about their personal life. The only one that we knew about was Ken. Then he had 2 kids,
Oh yeah.
but the rest of them, there wasn't really anything about their personal life or their personality. It was all just about their education and their background. Except for Andy. The one thing that I really liked about Andy was that he was Mr. Follow Through. He followed up on everything. He never let anything go. Like he'd never let the ball drop. You asked a question earlier about who would you not have hired, and I would not have hired Martin Street. Mostly just because he was recruiting constantly with other people, and it was hard to schedule him. It's like he wasn't invested enough in this particular firm. So we'll let him have one of the other ones.
Right. I feel like he was just, his heart wasn't really into one company or the other. He was just kind of like, what's the best offer? And then he would take that.
Right. And then who's to say that when a better offer came, he wouldn't just go do that?
Yeah, especially after he was hired. If a better one was he would just maybe just quit. So
Maybe another solution would be if you guys remember in the reading, I would suggest the type of recruiting where you ask questions, not just like yes or no questions, but maybe like situational questions. Whereas like, what would you do in this type of situation, rather than have you ever run a business? Those type of questions.
Tell me about a time when.
What was that?
Just the questions that Kyle's talking about. Tell me about a time when this happened. Like how do they handle situations?
Definitely. There was a lot of disagreement between the senior bankers in the Saturday meeting about which recruits to hire. Was it partially because the interview process? What do you guys think?
It mentioned in the reading that they like to have the younger, like not the senior managers do it, because they look for more of, what was it, like the tasks they can do or something similar to that. I can't remember the exact wording, but so yeah, maybe the interviews had something to do with that. The questions the senior associates were asking versus the junior associates.
I also thought the interview process was really lengthy. Where was it? It was talking about, so for the Saturday meeting, it was 5 half-hour sessions with short breaks. And I wasn't sure, I don't know if you guys clarified or not, whether it was with the same interviewer or if it was with different interviewers.
Different.
It was different ones?
Yeah.
But I felt like, because there were 30, it was with different, but I guess that there's 5 5-hour session or half-hour sessions. Then they're not going to be able to meet with all the different bankers, because I think there were 30 bankers and there are 30 applicants. So when they come down to the final decision, I was kind of confused about how they would make a decision based off only meeting with a few people versus everyone, if that makes sense.
Well, I can tell you what I think, but I mean, in that type of an environment, if you've got 30 different candidates and you only have 5, so each one of the interviewers is going to meet with 5 different people. And if I'm an interviewer and I meet with 5 people and not one of them is stellar, I'm not going to pass them on. But if I'm an interviewer and I meet with 5 different people and 2 of them really piqued my interest, then I'll talk about those 2. And then the person who interviewed 5, they didn't care about, none of them move on, only those 2 move on. So you really get rid of 8 people in that process rather than,
So
Does that
that way
make
they don't
sense?
have to each and every banker. Yeah,
right, you have to meet with everybody,
right.
meet with 5 different, and then each one of the candidates is likely meeting with more than one, but not all 30.
Right. Well, I like that. Let's see. So do you think there are better ways to learn about the candidates rather, like, I guess, interviews? Is there a better way to conduct interviews? Like, what else could they try besides those, the traditional interviews?
I think
Sorry, go ahead, Brooke.
the dinner they did the night, like the Friday night before, maybe helped them kind of see what they were like outside of that like scary interview, like one-on-one situation. So maybe getting to know them in that way was kind of a way they had got to know them with interviews and outside of that situation.
Yeah. I don't know if they did internships, did they?
Some of them have done a few.
That's right. I think that's a good way to really see their work ethic, and especially if it's not a paid internship, I feel like you would find out a lot about the person, and how well
I don't
they
know
would.
if it's a,
Well,
I know,
yeah,
like,
but
my
I mean,
sister-
if it wasn't, though, I feel like it might change their attitude.
my sister worked as a builder for Lego for a while,
Well, that's cool.
and I know that her interview was a group interview. Personally, I hate group interviews. I hate being an interviewee in a group interview, but as an interviewer in a group interview, you can really see how people interact with each other. So she said that they got them all together in a building in this room, and they gave them a pile of Legos. And they said, build an apple. And some of them would try and work together, and some of them tried to build it on their own. And so you really can see who's a leader in that type of a situation, who really isn't much of a team player because they just want to build their own apple and they want to be the best, who really thinks highly of themselves. Like, there's a lot of things that you can tell in a group interview. And since there was no shortage of candidates, a group interview might have been a way that they could have seen really how people interact with each other, rather than just having them tell you how they interact with each other.
Yeah, I like that. Does anybody else have any other suggestions?
Another thing possible is a role playing. Either bring somebody in to act as and actually go through a whole they do. So you take somebody who doesn't. Just as another option.
Yeah. One of the things was behavioral questions. So that's the ones that were like, tell me about a time when you disagreed with your boss and what did you do type of question. And I think, yeah, what you're saying is you can kind of role play it out and have that person be the boss, and then what you would do in that situation when you disagree with your boss. I think that's a good one. So what was the criteria for choosing candidates for SG Cowan? You guys remember that section? I guess throughout.
Yeah, one of the things they said, they didn't want to be told what to do. They didn't like regiment. They said it wasn't like the Navy.
Can you say that again, Jason? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You're cutting out a little bit, Jason.
Yeah, as far as the hiring, they talked a lot about the human element, the energy, the
Right.
goal.
Can you guys hear him okay?
No.
Nope.
Who can go out and they're argumented was one of the biggest things that stood out to me.
Did anybody else have any? Do you guys remember?
Yeah, one of them was the entrepreneurial, emphasis. They're looking for people with entrepreneurial experience, wasn't it?
That was one of them. Yeah. What I had written down was whether they were a good fit culturally. I know they mentioned that a few times. And then how well they were going to be around other people. And another one was how comfortable they were in social circumstances. If they're going to be kind of awkward, or I remember one of the candidates was, I think it was the first one. Like, she was really qualified, she was really good, but then when it came to social interaction, she wasn't the best. They also wanted somebody with more of a banking background, I guess business background. And that also rolled out somebody else for me. I think that was that Martin, who was studying business, but he didn't really have any business background. And one of the other things I noticed is somebody with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Was there anything else you guys noticed?
Somebody that was going to fit into their culture.
That was a big one, was being able to fit in.
That was a big one when they actually bought Cohen.
Yeah.
So how did the senior bankers know what they're supposed to be looking for in a candidate? Like how could they improve the process?
Well, it's like that last sentence in that hiring criteria paragraph. It said something about we're very hands-on and high touch. We're not the volume leader, but we are a service leader. And so it deals a lot with, getting to know that person, I guess, searching for the human element as we discussed, and the creativity, the energy, and why a company chooses a financial advisor in the first place. I mean, it goes down to be very hands-on and experience. I think the experience is what they need to look for as well.
Yeah, I like that.
And if they're emphasizing so much into the cultural side of the company, and it said it was so important, maybe they could have integrated them more by, I don't know, for example, paying for the top 4 people to go visit the company itself, instead of just visiting with a few of the top managers, So maybe implementing them a little bit more on what they actually believe.
Some of the words they used was fit and sparkle. And I think that was in the candidates for hiring section. What did those mean? What did they mean by fit and sparkle?
By fit, I think they meant just they fit with the company, and they were going to work well with what they had already, what they were going for with the company, and work well with the other people that are working there, and they just fit, like they were going to be good candidates to work there.
Yeah.
I think
I went back
sparkle.
to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Abby.
Well, it says we can stretch for personality and we can stretch for sparkle, right?
Right.
So the sparkle, I don't know. I think it's what shows up on their resume.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking more of like the extra fluff, like maybe on the
Right.
resume you look like good.
They can look good, not really who they are.
Right. So it looks good for them, looks good for the company, but maybe not who they actually are.
Something in real quick. When I read that, I actually was thinking more on their, like when you meet someone who's really engaging, to me that's sparkle. I thought, even though you can talk financials, if you're someone who's really engaging, you enjoy talking with them, to me that's a little bit of sparkle. That was just my opinion.
Oh yeah, I didn't look at it that way. I like that. So basically, how engaged, how much they're actually enjoying or participating.
Yeah,
Like-
compared to just going through the motions and, using the verbiage, but someone who's actually pleasant to talk to.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Does anybody else have any thoughts? One of the other things that fit with, I guess, went along with fit was that I thought about was looking for somebody that would be willing to work 24/7, which is, I know they mentioned that in there. The Family Guy.
Yeah, Ken.
Yeah, like he may not have been the best fit because maybe they were assuming family would maybe somehow get in the way of how hard he was going to be working. And then they were also concerned about the image if he was to take a day off, like a Saturday, to take care of the kids, like how that would affect the rest of the company. Do you guys agree?
I don't think that's a good idea because, as members of the church, we're told that we can balance family and work very easily. It is doable. And so a company that chooses, there are obviously companies out there that say, this is your job, this is your life, you will not do anything outside of this. And I think that's a little harsh because there should be things outside of work every once in a while, and spending time with your family is important.
Plus, I think balance. Who wants to work all the time?
No.
Not me.
Yeah, I
People
agree.
who
I
have
certainly don't.
balance in life usually perform better anyway.
Yeah, they're able to balance a lot of different business tasks, like at work, because they're used to balancing. Like, okay, I need to set time aside for this. I need to do this next. Like, I feel like it helps a lot. So deciding which business schools recruit, basically, there was a lot of controversial things about it. So why was the choice of which schools recruit so important for them? Like, why they put so much emphasis on it?
Well, I think it's all about which school. Like, for instance, the business school, they only chose the top business schools, but it was kind of hard for me to understand because they said they chose like the first top 10 students in the school, and then that didn't work out so well. And so then they chose like the under 10 or whatever. I don't know. Someone help me explain that.
Yeah, so
better.
from what I was understanding was the people from the top 10 schools were going to the better banks and better companies. And so Ray introduced a new strategy that was they figured they'd be getting. So I guess, let's see.
Go to the next 5 schools and take the
Yeah.
top kids from those schools.
Yeah, for like the next 15, I think schools is what it was. After the top 10, out of the top 25 is how it went.
Yeah, remember, SG is a boutique, so they're not one of the big players. So they can't really get the top students from Yale. So by going to the next grade of schools, I think they used USC as an example, they can get the top students there because Yale and Harvard aren't looking at them. So they just
Right.
kind of went to that next step so there'd be less competition.
Right.
And I think it also mentioned that going to those people that maybe weren't in the top 10, they were more loyal. Do you guys remember that? Reading about that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Let's see. I lost it.
Well, some of those people go to the next set of schools, not because they couldn't have gotten into the other ones, but because they can afford the next 15. So you're still getting a quality student. They just don't have the top school. Like, have you guys heard that BYU is I can't remember the verbiage now, but so say that somebody applies to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, USC, and BYU. And they get into Harvard, Yale, Stanford, USC, and BYU. Do you know what school they pick? BYU every time. So people pick BYU over Harvard all the time. But BYU isn't considered one of the top schools. So even though they could have gotten into Harvard, doesn't mean that they necessarily would have gone there. Maybe they got into Harvard and decided to go to USC for family reasons or something.
I also heard that they do that for bankers a lot, like what we've been reading about, because they need somebody that's trustworthy. And so they know that a lot of people are LDS and that they have like certain standards. And so they'll recruit people based on their standards, which I think is cool.
Right. Well, so your question was why, or sorry, what was it was something about why they wouldn't, or why would they
Basically, why was the choice of which schools they were recruiting from, like why was it so important, was the question. And then whether or not, like,
Sparkle.
yeah. So why, oh, one of the other things is, so would it make any sense to recruit from graduate programs that were like, I guess that were in law or technology? One of my thoughts on, I don't know, one of my thoughts on technology was that, I can't say her name, Natalia. Okay, she had a background. She was really good at the analytic understanding of the financial markets, and so I felt, and she helped develop the modeling software. So I felt like maybe that wasn't in the technology category, but I felt like it was, and she was a good recruit. So I feel like it might be a good idea to look into the technology. There are the graduates in the technology programs. I don't know. What do you guys think?
You said
You know,
law.
I agree with you. I think, oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that's a great idea. Like, who was it? Martin had military experience, and they really felt that ship. But you also have to kind of have that knowledge and that basis in the financial industry. So a mixing of the two would be great, I think. But as long as there's that enough knowledge.
I know this might sound like kind of like a lame and such, but since these guys aren't that big, I mean, if they were huge, I would say yes, expand your recruiting to different departments. But look from a business standpoint, I don't think they're going to be able to be capable of recruiting from any more than they already are. As far as recruiting, I think is almost met. Now, where they are recruiting from, I feel like they can vary or maybe even invite people other than just business students in the first interview session to see who's actually committed and who's not. But yeah, I think opening it up to other departments is a great idea, and seeing what experience other people have is awesome.
Yeah, it mentions that the first year associates that they end up like promoting at the end, it's like at the end of their third year with the firm, they never even went to business school. They've just been with the company for 3 years, and so they get promoted. So I don't see why, someone with a law or technology degree couldn't even be ahead of those people.
So do you think there's hope for, what was his name? Martin Street, the one that was in the military. He had no business experience. Like, do you think he could have been a possible candidate? I guess out of the four.
I think it was a possible candidate. He just wasn't spending too much time letting himself be recruited.
Yeah, there were obviously enough people interested in him, so he was.
But I mean, for like the #1 spot. So based on what we just talked about.
There may still have been hope because of his leadership skills, and that's why they liked him in the first place, is because of his leadership capabilities.
Yeah, I think if he had been willing to show a little more loyalty to, kind of pick a company that he was excited about and be more engaged with that particular company rather than seeing here and there, and who has the best thing to offer me might have been better.
So do you guys think, so should the company change from the core school strategy now that it's, like, I guess the market was opened up to the top 10 schools. Should they just focus on the top 10, or should they open it up to the top 25?
Honestly, keeping themselves in the top 10 to me sounds like a ridiculous. That's just me personally. It just seems ridiculous to try to compete with huge firms and other things, and you have just as good or even better opportunities elsewhere. And opening up to other people, I think they have a lot more opportunity.
I agree 100%. I think they need to go top 25.
Yep.
So what were the good and bad things about recruiting on campus? When they went to do, I think that's when they did, just on campus.
Well, you get to see them in a personal setting and really get to work with them. The problem is sometimes they built too good of relationships, and then that swayed them. So there's a kind of a double-edged sword there compared to just a blind interview.
One of the things I wrote down was getting the best students, even if they weren't from the top 10 schools, they tended to be more loyal employees. I know I mentioned that before, but going to those different campuses that were the core, was it the core? Is that where they found? No, I'm just confusing myself. Did anybody have any other thoughts on that? Okay, we'll move on. So are the associates that they sent, are they the best people to send to campus, or would it be better to send somebody from the HR department?
I think they were the best to send because they're the ones doing the job that the students would end up having, and I would rather talk to someone who was working in the job I wanted than talk to someone from HR, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I agree with that.
One of the very first statement that I read, I think there was a section that said one HR manager and what they commented on. And he said that people on Wall Street are too hard on people who took some time to figure out what they want to do. And I feel like that statement being too hard, I feel like they should be, because that's what I guess what I'm saying is I think the associates are better because they know, like what you said, Brooke, they know the requirements of the job. They know what it takes to get it done. And so I feel like being hard on somebody, an interviewer or interviewee, is important because you don't want to hire the wrong person. And then
Well, not only that, but think about the process that you had to go through to get that job.
Right.
Do you really want to just hand over your job to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing?
No. Exactly. So what about sending the senior bankers? Do you think it'd be beneficial to send the senior bankers?
Maybe towards the end. But again, like you guys said, I think letting the associates do the weeding is better than sending the senior bankers in to do that. It's a waste of their time.
I
Yeah,
agree with that.
I also think that some of the interview process is too much, even for the interviewers that are there. So if there's a better system set up, and maybe you can even get people that are more, more loyal to your program. If you spread the interviews out, and instead of just saying, okay, you have 5 interviews today, and we'll know by the end of the day if you're going to be hired or not, type of a thing, So if they spread it out, let's say they sent the associates in the beginning, and then had them the top, top 5 or 6 or 7, fly them out to the company headquarters and get to know the culture, get to know the, interview with the bigger bankers. And I think they'd be more impressed and more, I think they'd be more loyal in the end.
That kind of goes into the next thing we're going to talk about the self-selection process. Do you guys remember that process?
No, I don't.
Basically, okay, well, that's fine. So talk about whether it was something we agreed with, and it was just what it was in the case was, I thought it kind of discriminated against people who didn't have a whole lot of money, because during the interviews they had to fly out themselves.
Oh, that's
And you guys remember now?
Yep.
yeah.
So I thought, I don't know, people being required to come to New York twice just for the informational interview and for a formal interview was a lot. But it did, however, show a sense of initiative. So I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
Well, I think it sorted out those who were serious about wanting the job about it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're not going to buy a plane ticket or drive to New York for however many hours just because, unless you're an excellent traveler who just wanted to go. But I mean,
Do you feel like it maybe was a little bit unfair though for those people that may not have had? Because what was his name? Let's see. I guess he went to the interviews though. The very last candidate, Andy. But I guess he had money. He had a good business. He was doing really well. But it also said though a lot of his time and money was being put into his business so that way he could pay for school. And so do you feel like it's maybe a little unfair for people who didn't have the means to go out to the interview? Like, do you think there's a better way that they could have conducted the interviews?
maybe an online type thing like this. I mean, for the first go around, for those who couldn't get there, maybe.
Yeah, it does seem a little unfair, but I'm not sure how to. Yeah, maybe something like Robert said, some sort of online. But it's hard to really get the feel of the culture and like really what they wanted them to see when they were there for the first time online. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just have a hard time with that question because in real life, if they weren't from university and you just graduated, and there's a position for me, I'm like here in Idaho, and if there's a position for me out in, I don't know, Carolina, that I'm interested in and I want to pursue. If my competition is coming up from South Carolina or lives in town, it doesn't matter to me. If they say they want to interview with me, I'm probably going to head out. And if I can't afford it, then I'm going to look elsewhere, type of thing. You know, it's kind of I mean, they can't baby everybody, so it depends on if the students really want to work with them. That's another weaning filter for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, you gotta take a chance.
I really like what you just said, Kyle, about they can't baby everybody. I think you're right. Like, because I was having a hard time with that at first too, thinking, well, they just spent tons of money on Cornell and USC, and now you want them to spend a ton more money to fly out there to New York on their own dime. But you're right. You know, how bad do they want it? And you can't treat everybody like a baby. And if you handhold everybody, then they're going to think that you're going to do that throughout their career, and then you're stuck with empowerment issue employees, and nobody needs that.
Yeah, I mean, you've already invested so much in school. I guess you might as well invest a little more to get the job you want. So.
Yep.
A little more won't hurt.
Okay, so what were the objectives of the Super Saturday?
Gardening. They're weeding people out.
Yeah, that's when they had.
Is that why you said gardening?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I was just slow.
No, they're weeding people. It's a gardening day. They're weeding people out. They want to see. Well, first of all, it's one day instead of. Could you imagine trying to shuffle 30 different interview people through an office? How? I mean, that's 30 days. Or you can take one day, 30 people, sit everybody down, and get it all over with in a day.
Right. Were there any conflicts with the objectives that they had? Like, do any of the objectives conflict with one another during the Super Saturday? One of the
I guess there.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of them was probably the fact that a lot of the associates gave up a Saturday to do this, and they wanted to get out there as fast as they could, and so some of the decisions may have been rushed, possibly.
Yeah, definitely. There were some things on the math that I was kind of confused about because, so one of the things, so Ray estimated from previous years that he should make 20 offers if his target was 15 acceptances. There were already 8 hires from the summer associate program and 7 third-year analysts were being promoted. So this would achieve his objective of a full associate class of 30. But I think, but when I read that though, I feel like there are already 15 hires already, and then they're supposed to make 20 offers on top of that. I feel like they'd have too many people, but I don't know, maybe I read that wrong.
Except, didn't it say somewhere too that not everybody accepted the offers that were given?
Right, and so I felt like that was kind of like you weren't really sure. Like I don't know how they determined whether somebody was gonna, I guess I don't know if they had people on back burner, like if somebody did,
They had a
and then they just brought up one of the other candidates. I don't know. What were you gonna say, Abby?
I thought they had a percentage that said yes and percent, like they knew that if they interviewed 30 people, even if they put out 30 offers, they knew that they would only get 90% acceptance or something like that.
Oh, from
I can't find it.
previous.
Right, so they just offered based on that, and then whoever sent them, I don't know if it was me, I would just, whoever sent their thing back first and said, yeah, I want it. Okay, you got it. And then the last person that sent one back said, oh, sorry, we went in a different direction.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I do agree with that because to me, if they wait too long, are they waiting for other offers? Like that, was it Martin, the one that we were worried about because he looked like he was playing the game?
Right.
So I agree. Just take the first ones that respond. Obviously want the most.
So during that whole process, the Saturday process, what kind of information did they acquire?
Say that again?
So during the, sorry. So what kind of information did SG Cohen gain from the candidates during the process, during the Saturday process?
Yeah, they had a bunch of different interviews, so anything you can glean from an interview with somebody. That's the questions they asked.
One of the things I had written down was that basically what I found out during the process was that the bankers, I thought they would disagree with each other a lot. I feel like they would in real life. I mean, they mentioned it briefly that there were some disagreements. So one of the things is one of the managing directors might be like turned off by a candidate being too, I think they said it was salesy. I thought he was trying to snow me and that some candidate could have appealed to another director for having great attitude, eager to contribute. Do you feel like I guess what you were saying earlier, Abby, about the whole process. Do you think like a candidate that someone else would have thought was a great candidate being ruled out by one that he hired with, I guess he interviewed with first? Does that make sense? So I guess if I'm the second person to interview and the first interviewer kind of rules out that person, do you think that's a problem?
No, I don't think so, because everybody's going to come as an interviewer. You're going to come to that interview with your own biases, whether you believe it or not. You'll show up with some sort of bias, and one candidate might really like somebody because they may have connected over a sport or something while they were talking, but somebody else might not like him because he seems too chauvinistic. So, you know, let's say you're a soccer fan. I like soccer too, but I'm not a fan of some guy who thinks that he's going to do better in the workplace because he's a man versus me who's a woman. So you guys bond over soccer and you have this great conversation, and that's awesome camaraderie that comes from this. But then when I talk to him, he just is arrogant and just a jerk. So you're going to come and say, yeah, I totally think we should hire this guy. And I'm going to say, you can hire that guy if you want his assistant to quit. So I don't think it's a problem. I think that having more than one person interview is a good thing, because you'll be able to get some of those personality things out in the interview process and not have to wait until after they're hired.
Yeah, I agree. So what were the pros and cons of the Super Saturday approach? You mentioned one already, was that you knock it all out at once. Get it all done. But what were were there any cons to it? Do you guys think there were any?
It's a Saturday.
True. Yeah, I did mention that the bankers had to take off their personal, I guess it was personal time for them, and they had to come in.
Okay, let's be real. It's not personal time when they make bonuses off of it.
No.
Right.
In my opinion, sorry, that's not personal time. That's
Wait, was
business
that
time.
in there? Was that in there? Was that in the case?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, I totally missed that. I didn't even see that. That's good to know. Then yeah, I totally agree.
Someone did mention that they might rush it a little just because they're, it's getting late and they want to get home. And
Right. Well, but I also thought it was kind of bad because it was a long process, and then at the end they're probably kind of tired of being there, and so they might make like rush decisions. I don't know. Maybe not.
I agree with that.
No,
I can
they-
only imagine after the end of the day, you're exhausted. And especially at the very end when you're disagreeing with candidates, I imagine someone's finally like, nope, you're right. Let's pass on that one. Next, just try to get through it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're just going to define something really quick. So what's the difference between recruiting and hiring in your guys' mind? Or exact definitions? Either one.
I'd say recruiting is getting somebody who is like recruiting for the military, that person who wants to go into it. Or hiring could be just something, hiring for a job. You need a person that necessarily maybe doesn't want to do it. I don't know.
No, it's actually good. I didn't look at it that way.
recruiting is like going out and getting people interested in your company, helping them realize that you're there and what you do, and hiring is when you actually are giving them an offer and saying, we want you to work for us.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So what did you learn from this case about recruiting?
It's a long process.
Yeah, and depending on what company you work for, and depending on what the job is, it could be a really long process.
Have you guys had any experiences with that, with recruiting? Like summer sales, things like that? Like, I don't know.
I don't know if this exactly is recruiting, but I'm an apartment manager, and so I'm constantly trying to get people to rent my apartment, so I can relate a little bit to recruiting. Like, trying to make it sound cool and want people to live here.
And did you like? Are there things that work and don't work? Like, do you have any experiences that I don't know that you like to share? Like,
It's weird because like I can totally agree with the fact that they had to kind of change their strategy because every year is a little different. Like every, the market just changes, and certain things that were appealing last year aren't this year. So you kind of have to learn how to change your strategy and have lots of different ideas on how to get people interested.
yeah, definitely. And what did you guys learn about hiring from the case?
You know, I know that as I read through it, there's a lot of biases that come up, and trying to work through those biases, I think that's a big deal. Trying to making sure that sometimes it's one decision, you move on, more, talking more to other people. That definitely is something that we can improve on.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of the things I thought about was, I guess this kind of goes along with recruiting as well, but like clear job requirements. When I thought about that, I thought about the guy that couldn't work 24/7, and maybe that would have deterred him from applying for the job or being a part of the recruiting process if he knew that the company had such high standards, But yeah, that was just one of the things I thought about. Did anybody else have any other comments?
One of the things I thought about was having criteria, like there's that whole section about hiring criteria. So tell the managers what they're looking for. If they don't know, or if you don't know, then ask them to provide you with what they're looking for.
Yeah, I like that. If nobody else has any other comments, we're just going to wrap up. So overall, from 0 to 10, how did today's discussion go?
I liked it. 8.5. 9 maybe. Yeah, I think 9.
The 9 as well.
I would probably say 8, just because some of the questions were worded weird, but that wasn't your fault.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to make it make more sense because
No, you did. A lot of times you'd read it and then you would finesse it a little because they're kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say an 8 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say 8. Yep.
Okay.
8.
Was there anything that I did that you guys liked?
I like that you had like written your thoughts down beforehand, so that way if there was kind of like a lull, you would throw your idea out, which helped me start thinking about like different ways to answer the question.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm gonna bail real quick. Is that okay for finishing up? Thanks guys. See you next.
Yeah.
See ya.
Peace out.
And is there anything I can do better next time?
I can't think of anything.
No, I thought you were well prepared. That was nice.
Awesome. Thanks. If there's no other questions or anything like that, then we can end. I did have a question about the next paper.
Dude, these I did too. So we need to start figuring out issues about it, right?
Yeah. Is there anything we do better this time than last time?
Well, I haven't got the feedback yet from our paper. Does anybody else?
No.
Nope. Let me check.
I mean, but us as a group, like maybe me have my part done a lot earlier. I don't know if that would help.
Actually, that would be nice.
Yeah. I tend to procrastinate to like the last second, but I'll try not to. Maybe give me a deadline. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
One of the things that would have been a little bit more helpful for me is a little bit more around the problems. The solutions were great. A little bit more around the problems would have been a little bit more helpful.
Like, what do you mean with the problems?
Maybe more explanation.
Well, like maybe 3 or 4 sentences instead of just 1 or 2.
Oh, okay. Abby, are you gonna do the same thing, or did you want to do something different this time around?
I'm fine doing the same thing as long as you guys are fine with it. If one of you wants to switch, I'm fine with that too. I'll do whatever. Except Nick, if you're a procrastinator,
Yeah, I should be doing it.
like, give me ulcers if I have you filling it in.
I just need to set a date that's a lot earlier than it's actually due, and then I'll do it then. So, okay.
Well, you guys tell me, do you want me to do the same thing? Did I do well enough last time? Do you want the opportunity to try it?
I thought you did great. I
I thought
don't know.
you did great as well. It was good. You kind of like took lead on the paper and told us all what to do, and we got it done. I mean, I hope we get a good grade.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I just don't want you to feel overwhelmed, Abby. So if you aren't up to it, let us know. But I thought it was fine last time.
I'm okay. Just give me a little bit more to work with.
Okay, so this time we each need to write maybe a few sentences about each problem, and then, or maybe we should assign out some person to write each problem out, or what do you think?
Well, I think the way that we had it was perfect, and having Jason come in late actually worked out because Robert did a really good job writing those paragraphs for the intro and the conclusion.
Mhm.
So I think that was awesome. I think the way that we divided it up was great. And the problems actually worked out well too because everybody had different ones, but they weren't as different as we thought they were. So I was actually able to go back to some other people's problems and pull stuff out that we thought weren't necessarily related and still plug them in because they were. So I think the way that we did it last time worked out pretty well, as long as you guys are okay with it and then just writing a little bit more than you had.
Yeah, that works for me.
Good for me too. I'm glad you liked my writing portion. I wasn't for sure if I was doing it right.
It was great, and it worked out perfect because there was this spot that was perfect for an intro and a spot that was perfect for a conclusion. So I just split it up, and then there was that paragraph kind of in the middle that actually went with somebody else's solution, and so it beefed that up a little bit, and we got over our word count. So I thought it was great.
I think how we kind of felt last week, we all kind of decided that we needed to write like 600 words helped a lot. So we were able to know how much we all needed to write.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep.
I think
And
just
600 words is about a page to a page and a half.
I think doing it last time, it's going to be so much easier this time. And by the 4th paper, we're going to be like, this is easy.
I don't know. We might have run out of issues with the same case. It's the same case, right?
Yeah, it's the same piece,
Yeah.
but we're looking at it from a different perspective every time.
Right.
Oh.
So this
Different
case
issue.
is going to be on recruiting. What are the other two? I'm not sure what they are.
We can probably
Yeah,
just look ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got all 4 papers are already put together. So if you come across a problem, feel free to stick it in the other week's paper.
Do you have it in the doc already? In the Google Drive? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Do you want us to should we try and have our problems done by next Thursday? And like the problems with our written paragraph about them?
Yes. Let's work to the same deadline, except Nick, yours is going to be due a day earlier than everybody else's.
Wednesday.
Yes, exactly.
It's due on Wednesday, so by Wednesday night, get your stuff in.
To have it done. Okay, you got it.
Okay. Does that make sense to you, Jason? Because I don't know if you were in when we first did our stuff.
No, that makes perfect sense. In
Okay.
fact, the only thing I might add, if it's okay, as you go to work on your paragraphs, perhaps go in and see if someone's already worked on theirs, so you can see what they've done, so you can avoid it. Because I know, like, I rewrote a couple of mine.
Yeah.
Right.
Like when I was working on mine, I like worked on some of it and then I stopped and then I worked on it again. But like I tried to upload it every time I finished, and even though I wasn't completely done, that way people could see that I had already started.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I don't mind rewriting it. I just thought it might help us not just write the same things and have to redo it. I don't know, whatever works.
Oh, okay. So wait, here's an idea. Here's a thought, because I don't know if you guys read the email that I sent out, but everybody did something different for the references. So instead of doing what we did last time and having to upload a Word document, we could just keep going in the same document and just add solutions in there. And then for your references, just put a website. Like, reference it somehow in the actual document so I know where to put it, but then just give me the website and then I'll do the references at the end. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Because
Yeah.
then you have to go back and redo some of the references.
Right. I had to redo everybody's because everybody's were different. And
Oh.
some people included the website and some people didn't. And so I had to go find websites and pull information in. And so
Okay.
it wasn't that big of a deal, but I think it'll be easier if you just give me a link and then tell me where to reference it in your paragraph.
Fair enough. Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss? Brooke, can you?
Yeah, I'll post this to the
Awesome.
community. Also, I may be kind of in and out next week. It's my husband and I's anniversary, and we're going to a concert, so I can be on, like, when we're driving, I can be on it, but I don't know how well my service is going to work, so I might be kind of in and out on the Hangout next week, but I'll try my best.
Okay, well, next week is Robert, right?
I think so.
Yes, I just looked.
Okay. So I will try and get this up by 6:30. I get off work about 6, so then it takes about 15 minutes for me to get home. So.
Wait, say that.
So I get off work at 6, so I'll certainly get this up and going by 6:30.
Got it. Cool.
Okay. Well, I'm going to sign off. Thanks, guys.
Well, thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
See ya.